Would you be willing to fall in love with a physically disabled person? It seems like such a simple question, but to many, it's not. The truth is, we live in a world far from perfect, where people's perceptions are shaped by what they see, rather than who they see. Perfect World delves into the challenges of living with a person with a physical disability. In high school, Ayukawa Itsuki was an active basketball player with dreams of becoming an architect. A tragic car accident shattered his life, leaving him physically paralyzed with a spinal cord injury. He reunites with Kawana Sugumi, a girl who secretly loved him in high school, at a client's design company's get-together. Kawana and Ayukawa reminisced on their lives together back in high school, where they shared their dreams with each other. Ayukawa was just like he was back in high school, passionate about architecture. But watching Ayukawa inching his way towards a wheelchair shattered Kawana's perspective of him. It was as if the person who he wasn't the same. She judged him by what she saw rather than who she saw. As she said in her mind, the unexpected reunion caused my heart to leap, but in that moment, I subconsciously retreated. Kawana is not alone in her implicit bias towards people with disabilities. Ayukawa's experiences reflects a common societal misconception that individuals with physical limitations are incapable of living a fulfilling life or make significant contributions. Countless individuals worldwide face similar challenges, battling societal stereotypes, physical barriers, and the emotional toll of having a disability. In Perfect World, Ayukawa's architectural abilities were questioned behind his back, highlighting the prejudice that those with a disability are inherently limited. Could someone like Ayukawa, who can't walk on his own 2 feet, design a building? To be honest, I have no idea what not being able to walk has to do with designing a building, but these type of experiences aren't something from a fairy tale. People with disabilities, according to the National Library of Medicine, often are seen as being unable to provide sustainable contributions to society, and several participants did not feel that they could perform most jobs or occupy positions where they would have to provide help or support to others. Individuals with disabilities, like Ayukawa, often face skepticism about their abilities to contribute to society. This skepticism stems from the harmful stereotypes and biases that perpetuate the belief that having a disability limits one's potential. As a result, people with disabilities are significantly less likely to be employed. According to the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, in 2017, 35.5% of people with disabilities, ages 18 to 64 years, were unemployed, while 76.5% of people without disabilities were employed, about double that of people with disabilities. With the implicit biases and stigmas surrounding people with disabilities, it causes feelings of isolation, self-doubt, and frustration, furthering impacting their quality of life. Perfect World highlights the struggles of living with a physical disability and how it impacts both the individual as well as those around them. Ayukawa, once an active basketball player, grapples with the reality of his paralysis, experiencing stages of grief as he adjusts to his new life. He fears becoming dependent on others, believing that it will hinder his career and make his partner unhappy. However, his perspective reflects a common misconception that people with disabilities cannot have fulfilling relationships. In Ayukawa's case, he placed a barrier between himself and Kawana because he believed that her life would have been better without him. If he had his legs back, he would be able to catch her when she fell from the train platform. He blamed himself for being unable to protect his lover, but Kawana never blamed Ayukawa. She still loved him, even with the difficulties faced with loving someone with a physical disability. The idea that Kawana wouldn't be happy dating Ayukawa because he's disabled is very close-minded. But where Ayukawa's views stem from is the fear of not only his belief of not wanting to put someone else through the pain of dealing with someone with a disability, but also the pain of rejection. The rejection of not being seen as who he is. According to
Stephanie Tsai,
a PBS NewsHour correspondent,
roughly 1 in 4 adults in the United States has a disability, and they are half as likely as non-disabled people to ever have been married.
Being disabled or living with a chronic disease is a large turnoff for many people. Their perfect image of a person is shattered just from a wheelchair or a walking stick. This is all due to implicit bias that has been ingrained into our society. But fortunately, not everyone feels that way, including Kawana. Kawana loves Ayukawa for who he is, despite the challenges associated with dating someone with a physical disability. In Ayukawa's case, He needs to use a catheter to use the bathroom. He will always need someone to help him with this, but this isn't a deterrent for Kawana. Sure, in the beginning, she was ignorant to everything that Ayukawa went through after they parted ways in high school. She was never exposed to someone who was physically disabled before, so you can't blame her for not knowing any of this. However, it is important to acknowledge that dating someone with a disability may have its unique challenges, especially for those who have not had previous experiences with someone with a disability. However, these challenges should not deter individuals from pursuing a relationship with a person with a disability. The story of Shane and Hannah Burkaw, covered by the BBC, highlights the societal stigma surrounding relationships involving people with disabilities. Shane and Hannah got married back in fall of 2021 and are still happily together today. Despite their deep love and commitment, their happiness is often met with skepticism and judgment. Did she marry him for money? Is this all fake? How could he even text her back? These negative reactions stem from the implicit bias against people with disabilities, similar to comments that were made to Kawana by her own peers and even her parents, suggesting that living with someone who can't walk will be overly difficult. While that is true that dating someone with a disability may present itself with unique challenges, however, it does not mean that you can't persevere through these struggles. Just because something is more difficult doesn't mean it's impossible. Living with Ayukawa would definitely be a bit difficult, but I feel that if difficulty was the bar to liking someone, then most of the people in America would be single. But again, these are real things that people think, all because society has disillusioned our minds to believe in this perfect romance. Sure, people have their own type, and some people may just not be interested in dating someone with a disability, but you should not press your own views onto those who find that maybe it's what's on the inside rather than the outside. But being disabled shouldn't be a deterrent against loving them. So, what were my thoughts about this manga? While the manga for me during the mid portion wasn't exactly to my liking, I cannot deny that the representation this manga gives to people who weren't born with a physical disability cannot be understated. This is because people's perspectives are often shaped by what they see and not who they see. I really hope that there's a day where we can push past those times. And if you were interested in how Perfect World mirrors the experiences of people with a physical disability, you may also be interested in how authoritarian parenting created the second sorcerer killer, Maki Zenin.